2, 1. The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Hey everyone! Get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is the Angry Chicken.
Greetings and welcome back, everyone, to a Wednesday edition of the Angry Chicken. I'm Garrett, joined by Jocelyn, and it's early in the morning for when we usually are ready to be functioning human beings talking to other human beings.
Absolutely. I, right before the show, went upstairs and went to the bathroom, as you do, because this is sometimes a long show. And I literally had not had any coffee yet and couldn't get back out of the door. Like, normally you reach for a door handle and you like go like this and you turn. And for some reason, I thought this would be a better way to do it. And I had my hand like all backwards and I was like, can't turn doorknob. I literally can't function at this time in the morning, you guys. And I know lots and lots of people out there. You guys have early mornings. You've got, 9 to 5 jobs. But my job takes me from usually about like 11 a.m. to noon until about 3 in the morning. So actually stringing together coherent thoughts at 10 a.m. is actually really difficult for me.
I spent my morning just running around my studio, just going, get ready to talk.
It's the other thing, normally because we both work from home and, our significant others are out of the home. So I don't normally actually use my voice or talk sometimes until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
The earliest meetings I usually deal with are like 11 a.m. and we're even like an hour earlier than that. So usually I'm just, chilling here in my MeUndies for like the first few hours of the day, just editing video or writing notes or slamming Murloc Shaman games like it's my job, which it kind of is.
Oh, honestly, MeUndies is saving me this morning. You guys don't even understand.
Oh man, what have you been playing, by the way? Like deck wise, I've not moved off of Murloc Shaman because it is working so. I haven't had a deck with this strong of a win rate in a long time.
I'm actually just playing the same. I'm really enjoying it. I was playing a version of Murloc Shaman like right after the expansion launched, so like about a month, maybe a little longer ago, and it was so much fun. But then like Rise of the Mechs happened and things kind of changed up, and I moved away from it for a little while, and then you're like, no, check this out, like this is actually working really well. And I was like, man, this is so much more fun than, because I was playing the Overload version, I was doing some hunter things, I was doing obviously warrior. Don't hate me, guys. It's the thing that just has to happen sometimes.
They haven't nerfed it yet. I thought it'd be dealt with at this point. They haven't. It's still good. Like, that's what it comes down to. I'm not as mad at it now because somehow my Murloc Shaman it has a pretty decent win rate against Warrior. It is one of the stickier matchups for sure, but it has a chance. And like that's really all I asked for, because it has pretty solid matchups. Need a
chance.
Yeah, it has pretty solid matchups against like literally everything else. So if Warrior is a little rough, that's fine, but I still have a positive win rate against Warrior with this deck. Like if it's that, to say a deck is draw dependent is kind of reductive, but in that matchup, it is very draw dependent. But my God, if you hit your draws, Jocelyn, it's fine. Yeah. It's just like, what Warrior? Now, if you don't hit them, then you're sitting there going, I guess I hope I get lucky off Hagatha. It's kind of what I cross my fingers for, and that's like one of the main reasons I run Hagatha. But yeah, it's treating me very, very well, which is good because we're both actually traveling this month, and I'm like a little worried. I'm like, I need to like at least get to 5, and I'm like, never mind, I'm basically there. We're good.
Yeah. Plus, it's a really easy deck to play. That's always what I find the great thing about just a Murloc deck in general, whether it's, Paladin, Shaman, Mage, whatever, is that they're fairly easy to play on mobile.
Yeah.
I don't have to, I don't have to worry too much about a whole bunch of different combos. It's just like, okay, what Murlocs do I have? Let's go.
Yeah. No, I do think the Overload Shaman is more fun to play. Like, I don't know. I love making sparks, and I love the Overload mechanic and Miss Unbound Elemental. Like, I have a lot of fun playing that deck, but why try harder?
It is. Overload is fun for sure, but yeah, Murlocs are just really good right now.
Yeah. Just really working out. I dropped my deck list in the patron Discord. So patrons, if you're wondering what the heck I've been playing, that's it. What the heck do I even have right now? Of logged games, I have an 80% win rate.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's really good.
It's dumb. It's real dumb. You should go play it. So, anyways, you may be wondering why we're recording on a Wednesday morning instead of our normal Tuesdays at 4 p.m. And that's because there was a chunky AMA yesterday, and it didn't wrap up until our dinner hours. So I was like, yo, should we push? And you're like, yeah, but let's push till Wednesday morning because I got a raid. And I was like, I respect that. I respect it. So with that in mind, we got a lot of Hearthstone news to cover this week, so let's get into it.
Good news, everyone!
So, let's just kick it off with the AMA because it was a chunky boy, and how long this goes will pretty much dictate how long we spend on everything else on today's episode. So, let's just rip this Band-Aid off, right? Actually, there's two Band-Aids. Let's rip off right at the top. There were no card reveal spoilers whatsoever in this AMA, and there's still no new game modes. That was asked about, and they basically said no and also sort of dodged the question. It was just like Tavern Brawl. So,
yeah, which is kind of it's the question that and the answer that we've been getting for kind of quite a long time is they like Tavern Brawl because it lets them experiment and it's them tiptoeing around actually putting new modes in the game. So as long as you aren't sitting in a place where you're expecting new game modes, then everything's fine.
Listen, this is typically like my trigger. This has been a really awesome year for Hearthstone. Like, because of their release cadence, which we'll talk about next, this doesn't annoy me nearly as much as it usually does.
I'm in the same boat, and I think it's a combination of the cadence of release. So how often we're getting not only new content, but changes coming out of the team, I think has made a big difference. And on top of that, as much as I didn't necessarily like the staggered release of expansion and single player content, because obviously I want everything all at the same time, I really enjoyed the Dalaran Heist. In fact, I'm still playing Dalaran Heist as much as I'm playing Ladder because I'm just having so much fun in it. So I think the combination of them really figuring out what they want to do in the single player space and creating something that, even though it has no tangible rewards, like I'm finally starting to understand the reward is the fun, which I didn't really think that I would, but because you're working towards something, there's, like new hero powers to unlock, new decks to unlock. I feel like I'm always doing something productive, I guess, is the best way that I can put. Like, I don't feel like it's a waste of my Hearthstone time like I did with the other dungeon run style modes.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. I feel like it was just enough to like feel right for me. I would like more. I've made the suggestion of I'd like unlockable treasures you can start your run with. That would be really cool. I would certainly like more unlocks, more permanent things to keep and take with you into your next run. But boy, I just really like what they did with it. So I've been super happy with it. And plus freaking Rise of Mech, just everything that they've been doing this year in Hearthstone has, it's just really worked for me. I like it. I like it a lot. It keeps me interested.
Well, that's the thing, right? The keeps me interested part. I haven't run out of fun things to do. I haven't felt like there's been a lull like there has been in previous years. Cause normally it's like expansion and then lull, and then we start to go up a little bit more as the next expansion's announced. We get all the card releases. Oh my God, it's out. And then, you go back down into a lull again. And I haven't felt that this year, this standard year. So like kind of from Rise of Shadows onwards, I've had a really good time and there's always something to keep my interest there. So I think that even though we're not getting any new game modes, and I still think that there is a lot of room in Hearthstone for them to create new spaces for us to play, I'm not mad about it anymore. Like I'm having enough fun and I'm keeping my interest in Hearthstone and I'm not feeling the lull, so I'm fine.
Yeah. It's a much easier pill to swallow when they're still actively making changes and supporting the game in between expansions, which up until this year was never the case. There would be an AMA, they say no new game modes, and I would sit here going, well, what are you doing besides expansions? Because there's nothing.
That's how it felt for a really long time, right? Is the idea of like, we're sitting here and we know you guys are working on something, but it seems like it's just more cards for the next expansion. And like, what are you doing? Is the question I felt like we were asking all the time.
Yeah, now I'm like, oh, lots of things. So many things. At a regular pace, and I dig it. So anyways, speaking of cadence, they did kind of talk about that specifically, even mentioning what we on A Move refer to as the C word after what happened with Heroes of the Storm. They talked about, the question was asked, like, what they're doing what are their plans to keep the player base engaged in what was referred to as the core PvP experience. And
I think they called it a multiplayer experience. I changed it to PvP experience because that's what they were actually asking. Because to me, when you have things like tavern brawls and stuff where you can like play with another person and like against a boss and all of that is technically multiplayer. So what they were asking about was basically like ladder. What are you going to do to keep people engaged in what is your core game mode experience that you had since the start, right? When we very first started Hearthstone in beta, it was ladder. It was a really weird ladder that went away and got changed a whole lot, and a whole bunch became a whole bot. It's morning Joce brain, guys.
Yeah. No,
but yeah, that's what they were talking about, though. Basically, ladder.
Yeah, no, your morning brain is on point. Like that's the point. Yeah, and they basically said, hey, we just had Rise of Mech. We just added new cards to take care of some gaps in the classic basic set, and to expect more things like that. And they've kind of changed their outlook, as they put it, towards changing cards more frequently, and that they intend to do more things like all of this. They said, especially between expansions. And then in like super PR speak, but I'm into it, they said identify even more opportunities going forward. Like that's the most PR speak line in this whole reply, and I'm fine with it because it is a confirmation that they're open to even more, that they're not going to stop here. That's good to hear.
That's the one thing that I got out of a lot of the answers to this AMA was the idea that, they're not going to stick to the old way of doing things for the sake of sticking to the old way of doing things. Like they're open to a whole lot of things that we've either heard them straight up say no to in the past, or we thought that they would never even consider because it would just seem so out of the realm of everything that they were already doing. Right? Like there are some things in Hearthstone, like this next question here, like the size of an expansion, 135 cards. That's like, it feels so set in stone. And they're like, nah, we're open to that. Like, let's talk about it. Like, should we do more? Should we do more expansions in a year? Should we do smaller releases in between? Like they're open to all of this stuff. And it's really funny because it's the kind of thing that in the past we've seen them say like, no, we don't want to do that. Why would we ever do that? 3 expansions a year, 135 cards. That's what we do. Why are you talking about anything else?
Yeah. I mean, it was brought up. The question was about basically, are you happy with that? Do you like 135 cards per expansion? And they said, actually, seems like players are still tearing through things too fast. So in their words, they're looking at this again. This being 135 card expansions. That's really cool. It's really exciting. I'm totally with you. This is where my brain starts to go, another game mode would help with the tearing through content. I don't want it to like sound aggressive, but it does seem to be this weird thing that the team seems afraid of, and I do not understand why.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with what they were saying with how like adventures were too small, and if they were to go back to like the two expansions or one expansion, two adventures, and you know, like if they were to mix adventures back into it in place of expansions, like we would just people would leave the game because it would just be not there wouldn't be enough cards to keep people excited, engaged, and building new and finding new decks. So I agree there, and I'm glad that they recognize that. And I like that they were talking about how they think that the idea of releasing cards more often is a better idea than just saying like, okay, now instead of 135 cards, our expansion are 200 cards, because I like having it like split up a little bit more. And I think we got a little bit of that with the Rise of the Mech thing, with, you know, buffing cards that weren't seeing a lot of play. And that felt almost like adding new cards to the game, right? All of a sudden we had all these mech decks that weren't a thing prior to the event. So I'm on board with like big expansion, and then a couple months later, maybe, you know, 20 to 30 cards, and then big expansion again 2 months after that. Like I feel like that would be a good pace. I didn't use the word pace.
I use it. I'll give up at this point. But it's a good word for what we're discussing. I mean, cadence is what we're dancing around. So
yeah,
I like it too.
They did also say that they're curious to see if people are into that or not, because obviously, as soon as we start talking about, and this is kind of where I start to get more on your side, Garrett, when talking about new game modes, because if we start talking about new cards, then are we talking about increased cost of Hearthstone? Because that's always a hot button topic, right? So if we're going to increase the size of expansions, if we're going to get more expansions more often, if we're going to add the, you know, 20 to 30 cards when they do an arena shakeup or something, you know, like if we're talking about those things, unless that content is like 100% free, which Hearthstone's a business, so it probably won't be, then, you know, we're getting into that, like, okay, I already spend X number of dollars on Hearthstone. Now you want me to, you know, buy 3 mini expansions or like 3 DLCs through a year or something. And like, how much can this game possibly cost? Whereas if you build a new game mode, then that's not actually going to cost your players anymore, right? Then you just take costs right out of it, and it's like, now there's just more for me to do in the game with the cards I already own.
Well, so, I mean, not necessarily. Like, I would like an honest-to-God draft, and I'd be happy to pay money for that.
Right, yeah. But, like, so if it was something along the lines of Arena, sure,
right,
yeah.
Right, but just that caveat, just saving us from some YouTube comments. But they also mentioned specifically that they think a faster cadence is a better idea than more cards per expansion, because also adding more cards into the expansion, it essentially increases the cost of Hearthstone as well, because the more cards that are in a set, the more packs you're going to have to buy to find more cards, unless for some reason they're like, and we're adding 20 more cards than usual, but you're going to get those 20 cards, bam, just you get it. Like, I mean, that might be one way to do it, but if they play it like they always have.
Yeah, and if that's how they're going to do it, if they're going to say like, okay, our expansion suddenly is going to be 150 cards, 160 cards, whatever, but you're going to get a bunch for free, well, why not just hold back that, you know, 1 card per class and some neutrals to throw at us partway through? Because again, it's not the start of the expansion where the problem is. It's, you know, 2 months in. It's the right smack in between the two expansions where the lull usually occurs. So that's what we got to fight.
Yeah, but you know, shifting gears from talking about kind of the cadence and frequency of updates, they revisited the topic of class identity, because it was brought up, because one of the coaches was basically, hey, you talked about class identities, but some of them are totally WTF. Which,
yeah, it was very much more nicely worded than that, but basically it was like, okay, the things that you said about, I think specifically Mage and Shaman, were very out of whack from where their class identities actually are. Like, they're like, Shaman has trouble generating cards, but Hagatha exists. And they're like, yeah, they understand that there's a really big difference in some classes currently. like where they are in Hearthstone versus what the Hearthstone team now thinks their identity should be. So they're going to lean much harder into these identities in the future.
Don't you come after my underbelly, Angler. Don't you do it. That's the only way I win against Warrior, Jocelyn. Don't you do that.
I know. But they did also give one example of something that they changed because of finally solidifying class identities, so this also says to me that even internally, they were kind of struggling with what is each class? What are they supposed to be good at? What are they supposed to be weak at? Up to like basically when they put the blog post out, from the sounds of it, it sounds like they were basically like, okay, what does all of this stuff look like? Okay, we've got it. Let's go. This is our, philosophy moving forward, to the point that the rogue. So we know obviously that the evil league are all going to get a plague card in this expansion. Rogues was actually changed in the Saviors of Uldum expansion because of solidifying class identities. So that to me says, this is a more recent development, and it's something that they feel very strongly about, and that they're going to model the game along these lines now going forward.
That's cool. I don't know. This to me is, if it works, like this is so under a major umbrella of let's wait and see, because like in a nutshell, it to me sounds almost arbitrary. Like, we've just decided this is what they are, and if they stick to that in spite of chasing something interesting, which I don't think they would do, but let's hypothetically say they're going to stick to class identity very, very strictly, that kind of bums me out. I don't want them to do that. I want them to just do what seems right at the time because it's fun. That's how I would prefer they develop cards in this game. But I would imagine they're going to have some flex in that regards, because they have in the past. And as long as it works, I'm down with it. But we don't know. We don't even know what this play card is. So, it's cool that they gave us a little tease here, but it's kind of hard to know if this is interesting or not.
Fair enough. And they did kind of address that concern too in another question a little bit later on in the AMA. Basically, the question was, are you still planning on promoting diverse play styles within a class, or are like some classes going to basically be focused down to more one type of deck? And they were like, well, no, just because we've solidified class identities and we have strengths and weaknesses, then that doesn't necessarily mean that there's only one way to play that class. There could still be many viable decks within a class. And just because you have weaknesses doesn't mean, like, a weakness doesn't mean that a certain class is never going to be able to clear the board, or never going to play big minions, or, whatever, never going to generate cards. It means they are worse at it than a class that's their strength. That's what they're meant to do. So there's still going to be cards that fall, into the weakness and shore that up a little bit. They just want to make sure that, classes have strengths and weaknesses, which I think that they should. So they basically said, just because they have weaknesses, that also means that they have strengths, and they kind of want to lean into what the strength of a class is, more so than worry about all the other things. So they want to say, like, if a class is really good at something, we're going to give it tools to be really good at that.
Well, yeah, and if you go back and
you build around that. Yeah,
if you go back and you look at those comments that they put out about class identity, like the strengths, there, like for every class, there were so many more things listed than the weaknesses for the most part. Like weaknesses were it was like the smallest talking point in those in that discussion. So like if you have a class where, say, card draw is their weakness, like, okay, cool. There's so many archetypes you can play with that don't involve card draw. It's not the end of the world. So I kind of feel like this question asker kind of teed them up for a really easy like win in their answer, because of course there's like, even if once the class identity, I don't know, I never in my mind thought, oh, they're solidifying class identities, this means there's only gonna be one way to play a class. I didn't think that at all, because I don't know. It's not to say it's going to be successful though, because in the past they've clearly, most expansions I feel like they try and pull classes in two directions, like give you kind of two options. However, they want to roll with it. But I think of Druid, where they usually like for a long time, it seemed like they were going, here's a big druid option, here's a base druid option. Really, neither of them really panned out. We were playing druid until the nerfs came in the same way we always had for a very long time. Now they're pretty much token based as the go-to way if you want to climb ladder as a druid. But I don't know, it's just an example I want to put out of like, there's an example where they clearly were trying to seed two different ways to play. It didn't really work out, but there's also examples of it working. I think Shaman right now is a really good example.
Well, and I mean, the other thing is too, everyone keeps, talking about all the stuff that they've done in the past and what's worked and what hasn't. And it's like, yeah, but again, I just go back to the idea that like this stuff was solidified literally in this current expansion. Like that's when we got our blog post, that they're talking about changes due to class identity in the upcoming expansion. Like this is all new stuff. I don't think you can necessarily like look at the way things have been done in the past and say, well, clearly they weren't taking class identity. Like, obviously they didn't have solidified class identities when they were pushing Beast Druid and Big Druid. So I think that this is very much a sit back and wait and see and take a look at Saviors of Uldum. I eventually will remember the name of that expansion. I don't know why I struggle with it so much, but yeah, so I think we need to see what the entire expansion of Saviors looks like before really kind of jumping to any real conclusions, because it's the first time we're going to see what these class identity, what kind of impact these class identities really have. And if we can even see them, there's a chance that maybe it won't be as obvious as we think it's going to be.
Yeah. But anyways, moving away from class identity to just kind of I didn't know how to file the rest of these. I'm calling this miscellaneous. They asked if
AMAs are kind of meant to be miscellaneous in general.
Yeah, but you can pick up themes. Anyway, it was asked if the team reads fan theories about unreleased expansions and if anyone had ever guessed one ahead of time, and the answer was yes and yes.
That literally, there was like more blue responses to this question than any other question, and it was like every single one of the blue posters just went yes, 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 and yes.
Oh, yes, I love when they do that. The Heroes team does that all the time in AMA. Well, they'll find one goofy one where, one of I think it was the last Heroes AMA. Someone said like, "Do you have any big future goals?" And all of the devs replied with like bucket list items, nothing to do with the game. It was like, I really want to go to Tokyo. And every dev that was a part of the AMA had an answer like that. And it was cheeky, but also like a really great window into their personal hopes and dreams.
Well, I mean, it is called an Ask Me Anything, right? Like, why would you say, oh, well, clearly they're talking about heroes. So, no, they want to know what I want to do with my life.
It's almost like a podcast
I love that interpretation.
Yeah, it's almost like a podcast that doesn't strictly adhere to the topic of the show.
Imagine that. But yeah, so to me, obviously, so they didn't say what was guessed ahead of time, but clearly we all know that Joce guessed kobolds in Kobolds and Catacombs, and that's what they're thinking about.
Yes, the old Joce was right. Hashtag.
Hashtag Joce was right. It's a glorious hashtag.
It's time for some new merch, and I'm wondering if that maybe should be one of them. And it's just like, it's just a buff as hell life drinker, like holding up the words Joce is right. I can't draw that well. So.
Hashtag Joce is right. Yeah, if we have any like freehand artists in the audience who want to draw that shirt, please do that because I want to see it.
It's a life drinker with glitter. That's what's happening.
Oh, if you can incorporate glitter, that would be the only shirt I would ever wear. Just hashtag Joce is right, covered in glitter. Yep, done.
Yep. Speaking of Joce was right, more lackeys? ? Yes, it's a year-long mechanic. And before you go, yeah, I was right, I'm like, then why didn't you show them with the new Shaman Totem? Because it's hard to get excited about the new Shaman Totem without the new... I mean, lackeys are already good, but I need to know how good they're still going to be. Are you diluting the pool with garbage lackeys? I need to know. I need to know these things, Joce.
Yeah, and I'm totally on board with you there. So, I mean, and I can't believe that this was an argument/question in the community. Like they said when they introduced lackeys that they were going to keep introducing lackeys and they were going to be around all year. Why would they say it's a year-long mechanic. If they were just like, did people think they were going to take them away? Like, they've never like taken away a mechanic.
So
like, it's just a weird thing.
My what if was it could be a year-long. You could still say it's a year-long mechanic as long as you're adding cards that give you lackeys all year long, not necessarily adding new lackeys.
Adding lackeys.
And I think showing like they showed what 7 cards in the reveal, and one of them was a lackey generating totem, and you don't show a new lackey. Yeah. I'm planting my flag. I was still questioning whether we were getting new lackeys.
I could have sworn, like, I'm 99% sure that they said they were going to keep adding lackeys over the course of the year back when they first introduced them in Rise of Shadows. But anyways, yes, there are going to be more lackeys. They did say specifically in Saviors of Uldum there is 1 new lackey, so it won't impact the pool too much. But like you say, I think we talked about last episode, what that lackey is going to dictate the power level of lackeys, right? Because is it going to be a total dud, or is it going to add to the pool and keep the power level where it is, or maybe increase it? Who knows? I
would imagine their goal is to keep the power level relatively the same. I don't think they want to just like, here's a 1/1 vanilla lackey. Sorry. Like that would,
well, no, yeah. And like lackeys are, they're meant to be powerful, right? So they're meant to be better than a normal 1-drop. So I mean, I get it. I just hope it doesn't get too crazy.
Yeah, we're
like too strong.
We are literally just waiting in the challenge of lackeys, which is you don't want them to be too bad, but you don't want them to be too good, and they're 1 mana, so it's a fine line. Enjoy the tightrope.
Yeah. Chat room is asking, is it going to be a good guy lackey working for the League? I'm assuming you mean the League of Explorers if he's a good guy, and I would say 100% hard no. Because they very much said in Rise of Shadows that lackeys are the evil League of Evil guys.
Could be like a spy lackey, like a turncoat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's
turncoat lackey, and then he's terrible.
I mean, imagine the Hearthstone like art, right? Like you've got like really bad like fake twirly mustache on top of like the cutest looking good guy. Like I don't know, you just do a really adorable looking lackey that's trying to look bad.
That could be hilarious. Yeah, like just this adorable looking gnome.
Have you seen like, the goofy
gnome?
Have you seen the Goofy Goobers episode of SpongeBob? Because that is what I'm selling.
I'm buying it. I'm on board.
Nice.
I love it.
Nice. Good to know.
But yeah, lackeys are a bad guy mechanic.
Yeah. They also talked to it was asked what their single biggest adaptation was in their approach to designing quest cards. And this was interesting because they basically talked about that the first round of quests that they did, the effects when you complete them were very powerful, and it should, or at least was intended to, end the game shortly after being completed, unless you're a warlock.
Yeah, it was. They very much meant with the previous versions of quests, like build your deck around this really super hard, and you probably won't get the effect until like late game, and it will be game changing because they wanted the quest to be super rewarding because it was harder to complete. These quests that they're introducing now are a little bit easier, so you don't have to wait till end game, but then the power level is then a little lower, which is good because some of the quests were, I mean, like we saw Quest Rogue dominate for like the entire time it was in standard. It always came back around to Quest Rogue. God, how many times is it even nerfed? I want to say
Twice?
like what, 3 times? Yeah.
I don't know if it was. I always think 3, but I always forget if it's because there were 3 iterations of the card or 3 changes. I'm pretty sure there were only 2 changes. Chat room will let us know, but yeah, whatever the case is, Rogue's Quest has just historically been a major thorn in the side of balancing this game. So
yeah, I like the idea of getting the reward easier, like being easier to complete, but being more a part of a larger deck as opposed to like I basically what I have in my head, like what I want to see is a deck that's like Murloc Shaman, and it's called Murloc Shaman, but also happens to run the quest as opposed to being like Quest Shaman. Do you know what I mean? Like it's more complementary to other archetypes than it is a total deck build around.
Of the quests we've seen so far, complimentary is 100% the catch word or the tag word I would associate with these quests, and that's what they said. That was also in their answer. They said that in Uldum we want the quest to be easier to complete, but also have more of a game to play out once that quest is completed. And of the now 3, we're going to talk about another one that was revealed via an Insta story last week. It's the Shaman Quest. Of the 3 we've seen so far, I think that's absolutely the case. I don't think they're not game-winning effects. They can certainly lead to you winning the game, but you're not going to win the game just because you completed the quest. You're still going to have to play a game of Hearthstone. You're still going to have to utilize the cards in your deck after it's completed. And I think that's really interesting. I like that a lot, and I'm with you. I mean, that's essentially what you just described when you were saying, like, I don't want the deck to be defined by the quest. I want it to be complemented by the quest, and I like that. I like that a lot. Because I think quests are cool. I think it's really cool to have the idea of a card that is guaranteed to start in your hand, costs 1 mana, and all of the questions that come with that. I like it. I think quests are really cool, so I'm glad that they're revisiting them, and I'm glad that they're taking a significantly different approach to the design of them. And with that, let's talk about something completely different, which is alternate cosmetics. This was cool. The answers in here were kind of rad in that they talked about essentially the difficulty with which these possible alternate cosmetics are to actually apply to the game itself. They started with hero powers. They said that would be cool, but hard because they want it to be consistent.
Right. So like if you've got a shaman summoning totems, you don't necessarily want that to look super crazy different, which I kind of find funny. Because if you think about like World of Warcraft, what race you are as a shaman means that you have entirely different totems. Like Draenei totems look different than dwarf totems, look different than Tauren totems, look different than orc totems, look different than goblin totems. Like they're all different, but they all do exactly the same thing. But
but they're also like color coded, like very strictly color coded. So it's still pretty easy to recognize, unless you suffer from color blindness, which there's ways that
there's settings in game for that.
There are settings for that. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you're not wrong. It would be interesting. I always liked to pull from Heroes of the Storm the concept of something they've gotten rid of since, which was master skins. Like if you got a hero to 10, you could then buy the master skin, and it was basically like the vanilla skin, but like souped up, like extra spikes, bigger armor. Maybe you have a helmet now if you're Sonya.
The only one I ever got was Diablo, and I was so proud of that skin.
I got quite a few. In my time over there. So it's kind of what the gold hero already represents. It's like, here's a cooler version of your hero, but it would be neat if they found a way to expand upon that even further, but it also wouldn't necessarily be fair to everyone. Like it's not a perfect system, because it would be cool if like you got 1,000 wins on Shaman. Now you've got your golden hero. Now your 4 random totems you can get just look like more badass versions of that totem. They've got extra spikes. This one's got teeth now and it's drooling for some reason. That would be cool. But like, what do you do for mage? I guess you can make like the effect of the fireball firing cooler, which is something they already do with like the Medivh.
It
hero
looks
power
kind of
shot.
like an arcane bolt sort of thing. Yeah.
So it's something they've already played around with, so I don't see why you couldn't do that. And this just keeps coming back around to give us alternate art for cards. I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the shamans and the paladins are probably the easiest for us to wrap our head around in terms of what it could look like, because they do have tokens and art tied to them. So making them different, I think, is easier than, like you say, because Hunter came to my mind, right? Because Hunter would be the first one I would get if 1,000 wins was a thing. And it's like, okay, but then, what does my hero power look like then?
Yeah.
Different color arrow, maybe, but it's not as obvious as the token generating ones. But I mean, golden hero powers aren't as obvious outside of Paladin and Shaman too, right? So
Yeah. Priest is very subtle. What do you do for Warlock? Yeah, Warrior. Well, Warrior, yeah. Man, Warrior's just boring. Gaining armor is the most boring and currently frustrating thing in the game.
Yeah. They also talked about something that I thought was super, super interesting, which was something that I think a lot of people have talked about in the past, which is essentially making different board corners. And they said it's a super cool idea, but insanely work intensive because they also have a lot of surprise problems in the client or challenges in the client because they basically would have to. Right now, you both just get a board, right? So if you introduced different sides, you'd essentially be smooshing two halves of a board together, and you'd have to have two different views of that board as well. Because right now, everybody's board just looks the same. Like if you get the Rise of Shadows board, it looks the same. It doesn't look different to your like you aren't actually like playing on like a side of the board. But if you introduce board corner differences as a cosmetic, then you would be like playing on a side of the board. And it's a fundamental like shift in the code and design and art of Hearthstone, which I was like, I never really thought about that so much. And they could make it a little easier if you were the only one that saw the cosmetic, but then what's the point of the cosmetic? The whole point of cosmetics is to show it off to your friends, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to spend money if I don't get to like flaunt the money I spent. It's bling at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely understand that. And God, it reminds me of the first ever BlizzCon I went to an art panel for StarCraft, and they were like, don't talk to me about corners of cliffs, because apparently it was the hardest thing to make for the tile set, and they had to do it for a ton of different tile sets. And you never thought about it, but you're like, oh yeah, that's right. That kind of has to match up with the straight cliff tiles. Like, oh man, yeah, the idea of having to design all that stuff just kind of blows your mind. But yeah, they also talked about music, and they said art and audio are two of the things that increase client size significantly, and something they very much have to consider. So it's unlikely to see new full songs, but maybe stingers, they said. May I suggest just Jocelyn yelling hype? I can send you some stingers.
Any and all Hearthstone voice work, by the way, Team 5, if you're listening.
Yeah, I've got
all kinds of reactions.
I've got a whole archive. They're very small file format. I can send them your way. Just let me know anytime you want them. So, and then alternate hero explosions were brought up, and they said that sounds awesome. I would love to see that. Just like a little like mini mushroom cloud comes up.
Oh man, I don't even know what it would look like, but I'm on board.
I want a pinata one where candy explodes out of your hero when you explode, and that would be I feel relatively easy to do side dependent. Like if I equip it, I don't want it to happen when I defeat someone else. I want it to happen when they defeat me specifically. Like that'd be so cool.
Something that makes you feel kind of better about losing. You're like, I might have lost, but at least I exploded in candy.
Yes. Like if there was an Anoyotron hero, which there is, like sprockets and springs should spring out when it explodes. That'd be great. That'd be so cool.
That would be super cool.
So, so that's going to bring us to the end of the talk of the AMA stuff. There was a lot more discussed here, but that was kind of the bigger, kind of more interesting things as far as we were concerned. So we've got a link to the full AMA. If you haven't seen it, go in there and check it out. There's some other cool stuff in there. But we also have the Fire Fest-E.V.I.L to talk about. And before we do that, let's thank one of our sponsors today. Away is back with their awesome luggage. You can go check it out at awaytravel.com/tac20. So much travel happening very, very soon. You're going to be traveling next week, Joss. You got your away luggage packed already? Or are you like me and you're like the night before, you're just throwing junk in your luggage?
Does anything about me and my personality make you think that I would pack ahead of time, Garrett? Because it's literally like I just kind of go to the pile of clothes on my floor that is technically clean laundry, but I'm too lazy to actually fold. I just kind of grab it and then I drop it on my away luggage. I smoosh it down and it closes somehow. And I'm like, I'm good to go. I hope I have enough underwear.
That is what I like. I mean, there's so many things I like about my away suitcase, but the amount of crap I can just shove in it, despite its tiny size, because I have the smallest carry-on size that they offer, is rather impressive.
Yeah, I don't even have to really think about what I should and shouldn't bring like I used to with all my old suitcases. It's like, do I think I might need it? Okay, throw it in because the magic of the smooshing will make it fit. Like every single time. I've even gone to BlizzCon with a full suitcase and then bought like 4 bags of swag, and somehow it still all fits. An entire blanket went into my suitcase one BlizzCon. I don't know how it works. It's just magic.
Yep. So it's great. You should go check them out. Both their carry-ons, by the way, they have 2 sizes, have an optional ejectable battery. I highly recommend getting it so you can keep your devices charged when you're, slaying fools with your Murloc Shaman. They've got a TSA approved combination lock. There's the built-in compression pad is what we talk about when we say smooshing technology. That's how you get even more things in there. They've got free shipping to the lower 48 states, a 100-day trial. You can literally travel with their luggage, throw it up in the overhead bin, accidentally beam that snoring passenger with it. It wasn't an accident. I am not condoning violence on planes. But you can take it with you.
It might feel like you want to, but
right.
Suppress that instinct.
And if you do accidentally drop it on yourself, which I have done many times, it's surprisingly lightweight and durable and holds up to my hard head when it comes in contact with it. And then it's got a lifetime warranty on top of all of this. And you can get $20 off any of their suitcases by visiting awaytravel.com/TAC20. Again, that's awaytravel.com/TAC20 and use the promo code TAC20 during checkout. Man, it's a good deal. Go check it out. Get $20 off. Check them out. awaytravel.com/TAC20. Promo code TAC20. We thank them for their support. And now we're here to talk about the Fire Fest-E.V.I.L. Jocelyn, we've had the Fire Festival before the term Fire Festival had a very different connotation socially. But they're switching it up this year, and it's like a prelude to the next expansion. This is kind of rad how much stuff is jammed in this little event. We spent the first 20 minutes of the show kind of talking about the cadence of Hearthstone right now and what a good job they're doing. They didn't need to do this. The expansion is not that far away. I would have been happy with just a Dr. Boom nerf. That's all they needed to do, and I would have been fine. And in fact, I would still be happy with the Dr. Boom nerf. Team 5, if you're listening, make it happen.
We're just going to get a tech card that's just going to say Battle Cry, kill Dr. Boom.
You win the game.
That's just... in the game, yeah, because you could target the hero, you can target the guy on the board, the minion, any version of Dr. Boom. Just Battle Cry, kill Dr. Boom. Done. Yeah. But anyways, it's an in-game event, mostly centered around Brawl. It's going to start at 10 a.m. Pacific time today, July 10th. If you're listening to this in the future and you wonder what today was, it's already going. Go play. What are you doing? And it's going to last 3 weeks in total. It'll be ending at 9 a.m. Pacific time on July 31st. But we're going to be doing new event tavern brawls each week, starting with the Blackrock Crash. And there's like a story behind this where the League of Evil have essentially like crashed into Blackrock Mountain with their now rocket-powered Dalaran. Which I love that they're flying. First of all, they're flying Dalaran around like a ship. And second of all, it's really hard to steer because Dr. Boom's not that good at rockets. Or he's really good at rockets, but they just go in whatever direction they want. I'm not quite sure. But one way or the other, apparently a flying city powered by rockets is hard to steer, and I love it. I'm here for this story, Hearthstone.
My understanding is that rockets are very good at going fast in one direction. They're not particularly great at the turning on a dime.
Makes sense.
If anyone out there is a missile expert and would like to correct me, I welcome your emails, tacpodcast@gmail.com. But essentially, this was described as a party-sized solo adventure. So you're going to go and fight against 8 bosses, solo adventure style. If you defeat all 8 bosses, you're going to get the Ragnaros card back. You can also get yourself a Saviors of Uldum card pack for the first time you defeat 4 bosses. So you don't even have to full clear it. And all completed runs are going to be timed, and there's going to be timed rewards based on how quickly you can make it to the top of the mountain. And if you beat all 8 bosses in under 1 hour, you get a golden bronze herald card. If you beat all 8 bosses in under 40 minutes, you get a golden recurring villain card. This is rad and simultaneously filling me with a little bit of anxiety. I'm sweating, and I don't know if it's because this is literally taking place in a volcano or because now there's a timer and I want gold cards for cards I don't really play, but I want them.
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally want them. And I love that they are, again, putting super cool rewards that aren't necessarily game changing or game breaking in any way. And the other thing I wanted to point out, that Ragnaros card back, this is the first time that we, as far as I can remember, that we've been able to unlock a card back that was previously a ranked reward. So the Ragnaros card back was a reward from back in 2015 for, getting your wins in a month. Or I guess back in the day, it would have been getting above rank 20, right? Got you your card back for the month. Anyways, I think this was March 2015. Back when the Ragnaros card back was first introduced. So if you
I didn't realize that. I just assumed, I was like, oh, it's probably a card back we got for another Fire Festival that I forgot about.
Yeah, no, it's the ranked play card back from back in 2015. So if you missed it, if you're new to Hearthstone, you can now get this card back. So I'm hoping that this is something that, I have all the monthly card backs. I think randomly I somehow missed one of the card backs for the Christmas event one year. I don't know how I missed it, but apparently I did, because I was looking through my card collection because, completionist, and I was like, what is this gap? Why is this happening to me?
Is that the one with the snow globe and the candy canes?
No, I have the candy cane one. I think it was either like this past year, so like 2018 or maybe 2017. I can't remember, but no, I have the snow globe with candy canes. But the point is that, I'm sure I'm not the only one who has holes in their collection for whatever reason. So to me, this is super cool. I think that this is really, really neat that they're kind of going back into Hearthstone history and saying, oh, hey, maybe, we'll do a special event and we'll let people fill out their collections potentially. So I think this is a really cool way to do it. It's only available in the first week of the 3 weeks, right? So July 10th to 17th. So again, it's still limited, which I think is kind of key. You shouldn't be able to just straight up get everything super easily without putting any effort in. So I think the fact that this is still rare-ish, but allows some people to still get it, I think this is a really nice balance, and I'm super stoked for what this might mean in the future for completionists.
Yeah. It's obviously, I could see this being a balancing act. It's like I can almost hear the meeting that is being had about this. Like, we want to do rewards, we want to try timed, we want to try making it a little difficult, and maybe offering rewards that not everyone is guaranteed to get. So like again, we talk about the balance so much of so many things, not just like cards and how good they are. The balance here is, well, you want to offer rewards, but you don't want to make them so good that it feels terrible if you just, you crap out on your RNG and you don't get a good run. But also that's good enough that you do feel, maybe a little extra pull to push and try and complete it. And I think this is good.
You don't want to cheapen the effort that other older players have put into the game, right? Like, you don't want to take
there is nothing.
It should probably be a consideration, and I'm sure that it was. And that's kind of what I was getting at with, what you have to do to get this card back. The fact that it's still a super limited time means that, like, not everyone is still going to have it, My card back's still special.
There's nothing that annoys me more than people are like, oh my God, you made this thing that was hard to get easier to get. I do not understand it at all. I don't agree with you, and I think you're absurd. Well, it happens in WoW all the time. It happens in WoW all the time, and I feel like it's in the outrage playbook, and I'm just tired of it.
Fair enough.
That's why I'm grumpy. Sorry. Week 2 from July 17th to 24th is going to be Blackrock Crash again. However, we're going to be playing, in their words, a new arch villainous playable hero. So it's going to have a new spin on it in terms of how we play through this. There'll be another Saviors of Uldum card pack to pick up for defeating 4 bosses. However, this time, if you defeat all 8 using Archvillain Rafam, you can earn a golden Rafam scheme card.
So again, golden versions of cards that aren't seeing meta play right now, but you never know.
Man, golden cards, I've stopped getting rid of mine a while ago, because I kind of hit this weird point where I have enough random golden cards that I do see them in my arena runs, and it just feels cool.
Yeah, I love seeing them in arena runs too. And I definitely do the thing that we were talking about when they said they were going to introduce golden cards into arena, where it's like, it might not be the best pick, but if I have one golden card and two non-golden cards, I am 90% of the time going to pick the golden card. Even if it makes my deck worse, I am that player.
You are a living insect drawn to a bug zapper.
I know.
It is the Hearthstone equivalent of a bug zapper. Like, I hope if they ever introduce random golds into the arena draft, that they code it so that it is always what the game considers to be the worst card. It was so good. I want that.
I'd fall for it every time.
So the final week of the Fire Fest-E.V.I.L, which will run from July 24th to the 31st, will be the Burn Down, which is a new PvP Tavern Brawl. So we're going to be playing against other players here. Where their description, I'm just going to read the description. It says, where only the best decks remain at the top of the mountain. You're going to queue up and receive a random deck. Then if you lose, you will use the deck that defeated you in your next match. That's really cool.
I'm kind of on the fence about this because so if I keep winning, then eventually it's going to be all mirror matches, right? Assuming that there is one deck that is better than the others, then everyone will eventually be playing with the same deck, right?
I think it matters how many decks there are in circulation. If there's only like one per class and I
kind of assumed there would be one per class, but maybe that's me being reductive.
I don't think we know enough. I think the pitch for this is very interesting. We'll have to see how the execution plays out. But I do like the idea of, here's a random deck, go. Oh, you lost? Don't worry, you're not out. Here's the deck that just kicked your butt.
I do love brawls that just let me have a random deck and I don't have to think about building. But I know that there's a lot of people that really like build your own deck brawls, but I like push the button and play brawls.
Yeah. I'm with you. Also, there's one more Saviors of Uldum card pack to be picked up here the first time you win a match. So just going to win one match, you get your card pack, and you're good. On top of all this, there's a community challenge for the first 2 weeks of the Fire Fest-E.V.I.L. They're going to give us, the players, the ability to reveal some Saviors of Uldum cards. So they're working card reveals into the first 2 weeks of this event. So basically what's going to happen is the maximum, like the goal we're trying to hit is beating 25 million bosses in the Blackrock Tavern Brawls. And at each like quarter of that 25 million goal, they're going to reveal a card. So at 25%, 50%, 75%, and then finally 100%, they're going to reveal a card. So they say at 25 through 75%, the first three cards, they didn't specify the rarity, but 100%, it's a legendary card reveal. And Joss, we get to do something really freaking cool if this 25 million bosses are defeated, because we're going to get to do an exclusive interview with some Hearthstone devs about that legendary card if 25 million bosses are defeated. So go yeah, brawl, guys. Everyone. Go brawl.
Tavern Brawl.
Do it. Yeah. They were just asking, like, hey, would you be interested in doing an interview around this card reveal thing? And I'm like, yes. Yep. I'd be very interested in that. So go brawl, and also go to any fireside gatherings you see that are having the big bad rag raid, which is another part of this event that we haven't talked about, happening between July 10th and July 31st. Although, anyways, because they're having another one of these, like, beat the crazy health boss at your tavern brawl. Every time Ragnaros is defeated, he's going to have 15,000 health, by the way. But every time Ragnaros is defeated, it's going to count as 500 defeats towards this community challenge, as long as it's taking place within the first 2 weeks. And by the way, if you haven't been to the new Fireside Gatherings website, it's just firesidegatherings.com. They did a great job. They made it a lot easier for you to go and find a Fireside Gathering close to you. So go check it out. Shout out to our friend Amy, who I'm pretty sure had something to do with that website. But yeah, I'm stoked. I want people to go brawl, and I actually want to play these brawls because I've been enjoying fighting bosses. I'm sure it's going to be a little more stripped down. I'm not expecting to see our good friend Bob in this.
Unfortunately, and still, Bob is the only tavern bartender.
Yeah,
by the way,
y'all keep tweeting at me really well done Photoshops showing this robotic bartender, but I've still not seen this robotic bartender. This robotic bartender doesn't exist. The robot bartender is a lie. It's not happening. Doesn't exist. Y'all are really good at Photoshop. Thank you. Thank you for being good at Photoshop, everybody. You can keep sending us those images. We'd love seeing your Hearthstone deep fakes. It's wonderful. So, anyways, if you want to see all the details in full, head on over to the official website. Again, by the time we're done recording this, it should basically be live. So, okay, maybe a little bit later. But
I was like, wait, how long is this show going to go? I need the
Jocelyn, we still have global finals to talk about. We have a Shaman legendary quest to talk about. It could take a bit. But before well, actually, let's just go ahead and talk about the global finals, because it has been announced that, yes, indeed, the Hearthstone global finals is returning to BlizzCon. The top 8 at the end of all of this are heading to the Anaheim Convention Center. And they're going to be competing for their share of a $500,000 prize pool, and obviously the title of world champion. And so both end of season playoffs are going to qualify one grandmaster from each region to the global finals. And then three grandmasters are going to qualify through season 1, 3 more through season 2, and then the final 2 slots are going to go to players who qualify through China's Gold Open Series, which is running from July 20th all the way through October 6th. That's how we're going to get our top 8. The response seems to be a mixed bag on this.
Which okay, so I, as someone who attends BlizzCon, really missed the Hearthstone presence at BlizzCon, because since they took the World Championship out of BlizzCon, Hearthstone just hasn't had a great showing. It's like been off on its own place. They tried like global games, and it just didn't have the interest or weight tied to it. So Hearthstone almost started to feel like an afterthought at BlizzCon. So I'm really glad, since there's a lot of people who travel who are just Blizzard gamers and maybe not specifically Hearthstone gamers, they have a chance now to see that, because it was really, really difficult unless you were just a fan of Hearthstone and it happened to be hosted in a place that was convenient-ish for you to get to. It felt like there were a whole lot less fans that got to experience the World Championship, which was kind of unfortunate. So I'm glad it's going to be back at BlizzCon. I think this is great for the game. I think you're going to get a much bigger, much more excited live audience, and I think this is good for the World Championship. It also takes place in the same year, so it's not like your 2018 champion is going to be playing in halfway through 2019 sort of thing. And I don't know. I think that as much as I enjoyed the expansions, like the championship lining up a little bit better with the like standard year, I still think BlizzCon is the best place for the global finals.
Yeah, I saw a lot of complaints about the timing, having a world championship the same year as your last world championship, and it's one of those things where I get it, but also it kind of needed to happen, because I agree with everything you just said. Like, Hearthstone has felt weird at BlizzCon. Like, it has, like, part of it is just size, or the space. Like, there's only so much room. They ran out of room. There was a new wing open, so here's the new Hearthstone space. The space is great. The problem is it's pretty far away from the main show floor. And then on top, if you compound that with the fact that the global games just doesn't have the draw of your main competition, yeah, it's going to feel a little bit like a ghost tavern in there.
Yeah. And we had the adjustment previously when we switched from BlizzCon to a spring championship, where we had like 16 months between world championships, right? So this is just the adjustment back the other way, right? So, you know, we had this really big long gap. Now we're going to have a much, much shorter gap. And we're just adjusting back to the old system. So
right. It was either going to be a really long wait if we waited till next BlizzCon, or sooner than feels right, because we had finals already this year. And I think this is better than having to wait over a year for another kind of big grand finale.
mm-hmm.
It's another growing pain of a massive change to the esport format, like what we've seen this year. And frankly, every year Hearthstone has existed, there's been a pretty major change to the esports. But if they're going to be sticking with this had to be done at some point. Even if they stick with it or not, like even if next year they change the format up dramatically, at least the championship can now fall on BlizzCon again, whatever the format may be. Like, I don't know. It's.
I said at the beginning of Grandmasters that I was like, okay, I don't even care at this point, other than can we please just have consistent Hearthstone esports? But Grandmasters, and this is probably a conversation for another day, but oh my God, has Grandmasters fallen flat on its face? And I think like partly it might be specialists, but I mean, it seems that it doesn't matter whether someone is at the top of Grandmasters or the bottom of Grandmasters. Like, people are just straight up talking about quitting, and they're getting paid $500 to $1,000 a week to play 2 matches of Hearthstone on a weekend, and they're not thrilled about it. Like, Grandmasters is just falling on its face.
It's just strange. It's strange. I mean, that is like I think that's as far in the negative direction that the pendulum is swinging. But I think for us at home, I mean, I'm personally already, I've been a little burnt out because the competitive meta just hasn't shifted that much. I feel like every time I do, I'm like, ooh, a matchup I want to see, Warrior Rogue. Like, that's it. It keeps happening, or Mage. Like, that's the Holy Trinity right now. It feels like in competitive Hearthstone. And it's not that the play isn't amazing, because it is. These are some of the best players in Hearthstone. It's just that, there's a lot. There's still a lot of games. I still have kind of the burnout I had last year with an entirely different format. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's a way around that, honestly. At the end of the day, like, the viewership is decent. They're making money from sponsors. This is the way that the business is run. I think it's okay at the end of the day if even I, someone who likes Hearthstone a lot, doesn't want to watch the main esports tournament every week. Because frankly, for me, I think the answer is to not have it every week, but that doesn't really work for the business model.
Yeah, it's really funny because last year we kind of had the same sort of problem, right? Except for there was so much more travel tied to it, because there was almost a tour stop or a playoff or something like almost every weekend last year. And that was way, way too much travel for players who were trying to really make a run at it. And it was burning fans out. And then so this year we've still got weekly Hearthstone, and fans there does seem to be a little bit of burnout on fans. And then there's issues with people, like they feel like there's such a barrier between Grandmasters and everything else, because, you basically have to win a Masters tour stop to maybe have a chance at getting one of the relegation spots, which aren't even happening in season 1. So the idea that like there's just such a barrier between Masters and Grandmasters that, so many people are dropping off, and it's really unfortunate. But it seems like the Grandmasters has a lot of similar problems to the system that we had last year, plus some new ones as well. Like, for instance, this past week, we saw Purple going up against 2 members of the same team. And because they knew who they were playing ahead of time, they were able to essentially choose their decks to make sure that he couldn't get 2 good matchups. And like, that just feels bad. And it comes from the fact that, we've got multiple players from the same team. And of course you're going to help your team member pick their deck. Like, that doesn't seem out of the ordinary, but because they know the schedule ahead of time, they're able to, target things a little bit more efficiently. And that doesn't seem good for the competitive integrity of the game. So there's all kinds of issues that are kind of coming up with Grandmasters. And a lot of that has to do with specialists too. So, I mean, I don't know what Hearthstone esports is going to look like going forward next year. I just hope eventually we find a format that works for competitors, that works for fans, and is something we can keep consistent year over year. And I think putting the global finals at BlizzCon is like step one of things that generally everyone likes. And there's issues, obviously, with the scheduling and everything else because we just had a global finals. But I feel like that's really nitpicky. I think if you look at the big picture, Hearthstone global finals at BlizzCon is very, very good for Hearthstone. It's where you're going to get the excitement. It's where you're going to get the fans. It's where it should be.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And I'm sure we're going to come back to this topic in the near future. We're working on some guests right now, and I'm sure a few of them are going to have quite a few words to say on this subject. So we'll kind of leave that there as it is. Can I just yell more? I just want more relegation, please. Can I just say that for like the 7th time on this podcast?
Yep.
Okay.
And I agree I agree with that too. Well, I want more relegation, which then I think would lead to less of a barrier between masters and grandmasters. Like if that barrier was a little bit more fluid, then everybody might feel better. But I think a lot of people are like, why am I even grinding masters? Like there's such a small chance that I could ever be in the world championship. Why would I try?
Yep.
And that makes me feel really bad. Like I very much enjoy, and I feel like it's been core to Hearthstone esports for such a long time. I like the idea that me sitting at home, I could be the next world champion. That feels so good.
Yeah. I mean, it was far from perfect, right? Like the whole, like how many times on this show do we talk about like ladder feeding into esports when the esports don't even come close to matching the ladder experience? Just feels weird.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, it does feel like something's been lost.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah,
I want people to be able to have the chance to be the world champion and to feel like that is an accessible system and a realistic goal. You know, if you try hard enough, you can get there, sort of thing. And I feel like that's the thing that's been lost in Hearthstone esports this year. So I hope we can figure it out.
Me too. So before we go on and talk about this new Shaman Quest, we have one more sponsor to thank today, and that is Harry's. They are back, continuing their support of the Angry Chicken. You know, again, I know I mentioned travel, but it's just on my mind because maybe I'm a little excited to get the heck out of my hometown and go veg under some palm trees down in the Florida Keys for a little while. That's coming up very soon. I will not be forgetting my Harry's razor because I'm going to have my shirt off basically the entire time. And, you know, you're getting older, hair starts growing places that you don't necessarily want it to be, especially when you're soaking up the rays. So
man, it's beach time.
Yeah. I may have a beard, but I've also got a neck beard that I don't want around and other things, other places that need to get taken care of. So at this point, I have so many Harry's like handles that I always have just one and like an extra blade just in my toiletries bag for travel. Like it's just there all the time. Always a fresh blade and an extra handle that I had laying around so I don't forget it.
This might sound weird, but I keep mine in my purse for shaving emergencies. I get like, because I always, no matter where I go, no matter if I'm on vacation or whatever, or overnight at a friend's place or going away for the weekend, like I always have my purse. So I just keep my razor in my purse.
If I had a purse,
I feel like early morning Joce just shouldn't be allowed to talk. I'm giving away so many like personal details in this episode.
I love the idea
you guys know what my bedroom looks like with my laundry everywhere. You guys know I have razors in my purse. Just pulling back the curtain.
Love the idea of an emergency shave in the car. Like, I gotta adjust my steering wheel to get it out of the way. Such a pain. But yeah, you should check them out. They deliver high quality, travel friendly shave supplies at a great low price. It's just $2 per blade. You can join the 10 million customers who have tried Harry's, and you can claim a special offer when you go to harrys.com/TAC. You're going to get a trial set. It comes with a weighted ergonomic handle for an easy grip, a 5-blade razor with lubricating strip, and trimmer blade for a close shave. I love that trimmer blade. It's so good. You also get a rich lathering shave gel. It smells very good. I'll be honest, when I get a new one, I pop the top, give it a little sniff. You know, it smells really good. And you get a travel bait cover, so you can keep it dry. It's great for on the go. Go check it out. Listeners of Angry Chicken can redeem their trial sets over at harrys.com/TAC. Again, that's harrys.com/TAC. Go redeem your offer and let them know we sent you, and you'll help support the show. Now, we thought there'd be more card reveals. There's only one card that we haven't talked about since last week, but that means it is time for card talk.
The deathiest death.
And today we are talking the legendary Shaman Quest, Corrupt the Waters. You can put into play for 1 mana like all quests, but the quest is to play 6 Battlecry cards. Your reward will be the Heart of Vernal. And if you're wondering what the heck that is, besides a river that runs through Uldum, because I'm a lore nerd, it's a 2 mana hero power, so not a passive like we saw with the Druid. It's going to be a 2 mana activatable hero power. Your battle cries trigger twice this turn. So not your next battle cry. Any battle cry you can fit in after you've spent 2 mana to activate this hero power is going to happen twice.
Which is, it's pretty good that they actually put a 2 mana cost on this. Because can you imagine like pushing this button and then double Shutterwalk as like a thing you could just always do? Like, I mean, sure, sometimes you're going to be able to coin it or whatever, but realistically, you could have just always done it if this was 1 mana. So I like the costing on this. This feels good and balanced.
Yes, yeah. And again, keeping with the talk about complementary effects from your quests instead of potentially game winning. Now, this is potentially game winning with the Shutterwalk if you have ways to cheat out the Shutterwalk for cheaper.
Well, even then, I mean, like, you don't even need to pair this with Shutterwalk. Shutterwalk is just the first thing you think of when you think of Battlecry and Shaman, obviously. But I mean, the Battlecry and Shaman has just been so powerful in so many different iterations with so many different cards over the past like year and a half. So this just kind of fits well in Shaman. And I think that there's lots of battle cries that you can get when you're on your way to Shutterwalk. There's lots of battle cries that you can get that just are powerful. And I mean, pair this with lackeys.
That's where my brain goes. That's where my brain goes. Because, yeah, your brain, like, it makes sense. Yeah, my brain totally was like, Shutterwalk is going to be dope. But, like, how often is that really going to happen? You can't even guarantee that you're going to get to Shutterwalk in every game. But beyond that, thinking about any battle cry, especially battle cries you would want to double up, you still run into the issue of you cannot select new targets. Like if this is like a targeted damage battle cry, you can't select a new target, so you need to get double value on the same target in that case. So I immediately start thinking of cheaper battle cries, and my brain immediately goes to lackeys, because if I can double up 1 mana battle cries, that just opens up the possibilities. Now, lackeys are also going to help you finish this quest. It makes it very like realistic that you're actually going to play 6 battle cries over the course of your game and finish Corrupt the Waters. But I'm also sitting here and go, wait, no, because I want to hoard my lackeys so that when I finish this, I just go off.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like not even just with lackeys, but there's a whole bunch of even like Murlocs with battle cries, and just like there's just so many good battle cries. Even like Hagatha, like you could go down a control route, right? And then you've got double Hagatha battle cry all of a sudden is 6 damage to the board. Like I feel like this is just super strong, but in an interesting way that you could go an aggressive route and go kind of lackeys Murlocs, or you could go in a control route. And so this is what I like about this new style of quest, is that it's complementing things that the class is already kind of doing in multiple archetypes. So it's not sending you down one specific road and one specific way to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we mentioned the evil totem, which is a new shaman card that has been shown, and that's going to be more lackey generation. Plus, they've already got Sludge Slurper. Like, there's so many shaman battle cries happening right now. They can so consistently find and play battle cry cards that this doesn't seem like a stretch, and we haven't seen that many new cards for Shaman. We've seen this, we've seen Evil Totem, and that's it. And I'm already going, yeah, in Standard, I could make this happen right now. Give me this card today. I will build a deck that will finish the quest consistently. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I'm sure
it'd be great
when we see some of the new cards. It's going to be pretty solid. So I'm really excited about this. Plus, like, there's like some just bananas other places my brain goes. I was reading the competitive HS Reddit, which, by the way, this is one of the like most degenerate threads I have seen on that subreddit in a while. It was like,
usually they're very level-headed there.
Yeah, it was a lot of people like immediately going to memes and having fun, and then a ton of replies just dumping all over them.
Competitive HS is not the place for funsies, okay?
Apparently. But
we are super hardcore over there.
There was one Redditor, John Bray, that just had an awesome, I think, like, just kind of covered all the bases of why this card is interesting and how it could succeed. And in that, the Redditor John Bray brought up, Geppetto Joy Buzz get some discounted giggling inventors, and like if you're going for a control archetype, oh my god, double battle cry for giggling inventor.
Absolutely. I mean, that, like I said, there's just so many things. If you've played a lot of the Dalaran heist, I mean, double battle cry is a thing that can happen, and it is so powerful. And obviously, in the heist, it's not a button you push, but the fact that, again, we're talking about manipulating hero powers, so it's something that's just available every turn for you. It's not a card you have to play or anything else. It just is a button there you can push. So, it becomes super powerful because it's something you can rely on.
Yeah, absolutely. Barista Lin Chen comes to mind as well, because I'm talking about, well, do I want to play my lackeys or do I want to hoard them, because they're powerful in both cases. Obviously, Lin Chen is a legendary, so you only have one of, so it's not going to be the most reliable thing in the world. But that's fine. It is the kind of thing where that card in that type of deck, if you have it, suddenly changes your game plan and the way you're going to play that game rather drastically.
Yeah, you could be a little bit more free with your cards, free with your lackeys, right? Play out a few lackeys, then play Barista, and now you've got all your lackeys back again. Seems like a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Questing Explorer comes to mind, which I feel Questing Explorer is going to come to mind anytime we mention a quest, this expansion, but it's even better here because it's a freaking battle cry.
Right, exactly. So like you're literally taking your quest, playing it turn 1. You've got a 2/3 on 2, which we talked about last week anyway, is just a good card. And you're getting 1 point of quest completion already on turn 2 as well. So Questing Explorer goes in this deck, period. So good. Yeah,
I think so. I think so as well. So all in all, really good. I did think, this might be kind of fun in Jade Shaman in Wild. I think it's going to be a little bit fun, although everything is so fast in Wild right now. I feel like if you take turn 1 to play a quest, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah.
But still, it'll be fun. It's something I'm going to keep in my back pocket. I'm going to have that deck there for, when you're playing with friends and like, let's just do a friendly match. And I'm going to be like, corrupt the waters, Jade Shaman, y'all. Let's do this.
Honestly, I want to do something in Wild with double quest. I want to like corrupt the waters and then also untie the Murlocs.
That'll be interesting.
Shenanigans, I'm telling you.
That will be shenanigans. You're going to need a lot of Murlocs and a lot of... So I guess you would, because you can't have both quests active at the same time, you'd want to do the Battle Cry one first?
Yeah,
so
that's what I
it's
think.
Easier to...
You do the shorter, easier one first, and then you play your second quest and do the harder one for like super endgame.
I can't wait to play against you with my Corrupt the Waters Jade Shaman, because I honestly don't know which is a worse deck.
It's like chat room is actually saying the opposite. First untie the Murlocs, and then Megafin helps you corrupt the waters. But I don't know. I think you corrupt the waters first. But it could go either way.
It could. I don't know. That's weird, man. That's weird. I guess there's not that many Battlecry Murlocs, right? So there's an argument for that. There's an argument. And one of them gives you other Battlecry minions, so it's not the end of the world if you use it up. So, yeah, have fun with it, Joss. I believe
it'll be funsies.
Listen, Joss, don't let your schemes be dreams. All right, don't.
So many schemes.
Yeah.
So many dreams.
So that's Corrupt the Waters in a nutshell. Looking forward to hopefully seeing some new cards for next week, but I'm not worried. Like at first I was like, man, if we don't see cards like next week either, what are we gonna like? Never mind. We got Fire Fest-E.V.I.L. We're gonna actually have a kind of a meaty brawl to talk about. And you're going to be traveling too. So, by the way, everybody, little production note for the next 2 weeks. So next week, Joss, you're traveling. The week following, I'm traveling. But we are going to do our very, very best to make the show via hotspot and a halfway decent microphone. So, if there's some tech difficulties next week, just bear with us. We're going to make it work. We may have a backup friend of the show. Yeah,
thankfully.
Yeah,
because I'm feeling really not confident about my internet access when I'm away.
Yo, so. Justin, thank you. Yeah. Cat out of the bag. Justin Robert Young has been like, I'll be on call if you need me. It's all right. Mm-hmm. Thanks. So thank you, Justin, because we're not sure how the tech is going to play out.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, let's take a crazy game story and wrap this show up, shall we? Oh, you know what? I don't have that bumper loaded because I was so certain, Jocelyn, that we were going to have so many cards to talk about that there was no universe where we had enough time to talk about crazy game stories. But now that I have talked slowly and methodically, I can do this.
Is the whole world gone crazy?
You're in trouble now.
You got it!
You can send your crazy game stories into tacpodcast@gmail.com. Or if you're a patron, just drop them in that patron Discord. Patreon.com/TAC. Are you supporting us over there? Do you have your Discord hooked up to your Patreon? Well, you should, because then you just automatically get added to the patron Discord. You can just skip the inbox. But Jocelyn, who's got a story to share with us today?
This one comes to us from Space Spiff, who says, "Greetings, ferocious fowls. If a crazy PvE story counts, then I've got one for you. I'm about halfway through Dalaran Heist Violet Hold run on Heroic with the all battle cries trigger twice anomaly. I'm playing Paladin with a deck that's mostly Murlocs plus some buffs and other zoo-like things that seems to be working out okay so far. My next opponent is Pogo, and my heart sinks as I realize the insane bouncy bunny synergy that I'm up against. My fears are well-founded because Pogo Hopper plus Shadow Step on turn 1, naturally. I find myself quickly down to 4 health with no real plan for survival. I breathed a momentary sigh of relief when a top deck giggling inventor gives me a super wide and super annoying wall to protect my hero and some buff minions, and I start making progress on my opponent's face. However, he manages to magnetize Ziliax to one of his ever-growing mech rabbits and heals to full while continuing to chip away at my defenses. I managed to clear his side thanks to Shrink Ray, but soon I'm out of options, still at 4 health and staring down a 25-25 and 29-29 twin death rodents with no more taunts to hide behind. In desperation, you guys are going to love this, I play Hydrologist, hoping against hope that a pair of secrets will provide something, if anything, to keep me alive, if only for one more turn. And then I see it, the meme secret to rule them all, eye for an eye. Oh, well, I shrug. I was going to lose anyway. Might as well take out the AI with me. And besides, WWJD, what would Joss do? I play the secret, clear a small minion to guarantee at least 25 coming to my face, use my remaining mana on attack buffs and get him down to 24, cross my fingers and end my turn. After the inevitable double explosion, I get the defeat banner and proceed to a new opponent. No new cards or treasure to choose, but no end of the run either. Just another chance. I managed a pretty easy victory against Wirt the All-Knowing, and my run continues. Eye for an eye for the win.
Wow. I didn't know that was something that could happen.
Well, and this is why I put the story in, because obviously it's an eye for an eye story, so that's always gonna, catch my eye. But also, I had no idea that if you tied against the AI, that you would then just carry on. Like, it almost seems like a glitch because he didn't get the treasures and cards either. Like, it just gave him a new opponent. That's like, what?
I hope, I'm assuming it's intentional because I'm sure this has already been found out and maybe even reported to Team 5 as a possible bug. So I have to assume it's intentional, and I like that it is, if that's the case. Like the idea of, well, yeah, it's a fun mode. Here's another chance.
Friend Ninja is saying you replay the round. Interesting.
That's really cool.
It's cool that you replay the round, but also you get another boss. Like a different boss, I mean. Like,
I wonder
it's
if
not
there's
just a total reset and he had to play against the Pogo guy again.
Yeah, I mean, I bet there's a chance that I bet it's randomized. I bet it's
sure
a chance you could get the same boss, but that's really cool because I haven't had this happen. So that's freaking dope. Editor's note, rabbits were only considered rodents until 1912 when they were recategorized as Legomorpha.
Ah. I'm so glad we clarified that.
The back of my head, I'm just like, I'm not sure rabbits are rodents. Thank you, Google. Not a fact I knew off the top of my head. So, but that's going to bring us to the end of this week's episode. Keep your emails coming. Keep your crazy games coming. Send them to tacpodcast@gmail.com or drop them into the Patreon Discord. Speaking of our patrons, want to thank all of you that are supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. The show is always going to keep coming to you for free, but if you want to support us, you know, whether it's $1 an episode or you're all the way up at our producer level, every bit helps and we really appreciate it. So go check us out over at patreon.com/TAC. To our latest patrons, we've caught up again. Thank you to Morvian, Victor P, and JNY. Dare I guess your name might be Jenny?
Ooh.
Maybe, or those are initials. I could be wrong. Could be like John from New York.
I bet it's John from New York.
Or Joss, nice you.
I am nice.
Yeah,
You?
Sometimes. Sometimes. Most of the time. When you've had your coffee.
Yeah, that's very true.
But thanks for the support. And huge thanks to our producers, Declan H., Sean C., and Cheesy Bob. Thank you for the support. The whole back catalog of episodes is over at amove.tv/TAC or on the YouTube over at youtube.com/amovetv. If you didn't know we have a YouTube, we do. Sometimes we post things that don't make it on the episodes, like a rundown of the second wing. Third wing? I forget what. Second wing. The second wing of the Dalaran heists, which was also featured on the launcher, the Blizzard launcher. Yeah. So go check it out. YouTube.com/AMoveTV to see the VOD, see our smiling faces if you've never seen what we look like. And also, if you have never seen what we look like and you see us, I want to know what you thought we looked like, because every now and then we get a message on Twitter and it makes me laugh. So before we go, though, Joss, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm at Joce Plays. That's JOCE Plays. If you are into World of Warcraft, also check out my Warcraft podcast. It's called For Azeroth, Faz Podcast on Twitter. And we are in the new raid now that just launched yesterday. So I'm streaming raid on Tuesday, on Tundays is almost what I said. Tuesdays and Sundays. So do go check that out. And we're talking all things World of Warcraft, which 8.2 just launched. So yeah, check out For Azeroth.
Check out that raid every Tunday. It's going to be great. Folks,
I need an 18th coffee.
I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. You can follow me on there, tweeting about all kinds of nonsense. Everything I do is at amove.tv. This show is not the only one. You can go find Into the Nexus over there. You can find R2T2, my solo podcast, sometimes solo. Right now, it is hosting Joss, you and me doing another show. We're bringing back Embrace the Spoilers for a limited run of Stranger Things Season 3 discussion, a 3-parter. Part 1 is up, covering episodes 1 through 3 of Stranger Things. So if that sounds good to you, you can go listen to that. And that's currently taking up the time for R2T2. So that's on both the old Embrace the Spoilers feed. So if you were subscribed, just refresh. And it's also on the R2T2 feed. So plenty of places to go get that. New Let's Talk About Star Wars. And if you didn't know, I'm a graphic designer. I have a graphic design portfolio that I haven't promoted in a while. It's over at nomoonart.com. I am going on vacation soon, but when I'm back, I've got some openings for some freelance. So if you've got some graphic design you need done, hit me up over at nomoonart.com. That's going to do it for this episode of The Angry Chicken. We will be back next week, whether tech from vacation behaves or not, a show will happen. So until next Tuesday, job's done.
Job's done.
Someone was muted.
Yep, totally was.